Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Burn Bootcamp Podcast. Today is episode 28 titled The Real Reason Your Life Isn't Changing and How to Fix It. So many of us get stuck in the mud. We're dragging ourselves through the mud. We can't quite figure out why life can't change, why we can't create some momentum. Today's podcast is all about that. 5 strategies for you to create momentum in your life. Thank you for being here. Burn Bootcamp Podcast, episode 28. Here we go. Welcome to the Burn Podcast, where strength meets science, food fuels energy, and mindset creates momentum. I'm DK, your personal trainer, and I want you to train, eat, and think differently. So get ready to take your health and fitness to the next level here on the Burn Podcast. Let's get to work. All right, Trisha. We have episode 28. Welcome to the Burn Bootcamp Podcast, everybody. It's Trisha Peña, Devan Kline, your hosts, and we are excited to get real today. We're going to get real today. The real reason your life isn't changing, there's some science behind it. There's some real reasons. There's some real strategies that we're going to help you deploy to fix it today. So welcome to the podcast, everybody. If you're listening for the first time, the one thing that you can do is ensure that you are showing up every week, because we have 2 episodes every week. We have an interview, and then Trisha and I come on the mic and we talk about something that's going to make your life better. I'm a transformation expert, a business owner, a co-founder of Burn Bootcamp. Trisha's our VP of marketing, and we know how to inspire, influence, impact your life to make you live healthier, happier, more quality, maximize quality, you would even say. What else do you want to add to that? What other reasons are we here, Trisha?
Like, you're not stuck. I feel like a lot of times people just feel stuck in like whatever life that they're living, and that's not true. I like to, and we're going to talk about a little bit more, but at camp, we always say, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that is how you live your best life, is to figure out how you can do that. And that's what Devan is going to kind of share some tips on.
Yeah, we're both going to just explore our own shortcomings as well, because no matter who you are, what your ambition is, you're going to have periods of time where you don't feel like you're progressing as fast as you would want to. You might feel like you're slipping, going backwards, or you just might not feel like you're in alignment with where you thought you were going to be at this point in time. And so this has nothing to do with like success or failure or like whatever that even means, because everyone's definition of those two things is different. This is contextual to your individual pathway through life. And when you get to those times where you're set back on your heels, where you're pushed down on the ground and you don't feel like getting back up, these are the tools that are going to help you get back up, get off the ground. And that's part of our mission. Part of our mission here is to go outside the 4 walls of just the physical, the workout at Burn, and really go inside the 4 walls of your mind, help you think differently. And really, ultimately, my personal goal is to help you shape the way that you're thinking, and so that you can show up here and then you can get some of that kind of life, that coaching, that life coaching, that mental coaching, and to help control your emotions so you can get through those ups and downs more smoothly. So we did talk about last week, Trish, we talked a lot about the new era of fat loss, and that it's here, and how to lose fat, build muscle, and sleep better in the new era. And I wanted to point everybody to that before we got going today, because this might not be everybody's cup of tea to really dive into failure and stalling out. That might not be you, but if you're like, I don't know, DK, that might not interest me. Episode 26, the new era of fat loss, that one's more about nutrition and building muscle and just a hierarchy and priority of what you need to do in order to lose fat. So check that one out as well. But we're not going to dive into that today, nutrition much today. We're going to dive into our 5 strategies. So before we do that, Trish, we always do a little pop culture, a little fitness segment here. What did you find for this segment today?
Yeah, so we love Dr. Andrew Huberman. We've shared a lot of his clips, or at least I do. I know, Devan, you listen to him as well.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. He was talking to David Goggins, and there was this this clip that I wanted to share that basically it goes back to a scientific reason for why we need to actually push ourselves outside of our comfort zone and how that actually makes your brain stronger in the long run. So let's go ahead and roll that clip.
Most people don't know this, but there's a brain structure called the anterior mid-cingulate cortex. But what's interesting about this brain area is there are now a lot of data in humans showing that when people do something they don't want to do, like add 3 hours of exercise per day or per week, or when people who are trying to diet and lose weight resist eating something.
Right.
When people do anything that they, and this is the important part, that they don't want to do.
Right.
It's not about adding more work. It's about adding more work that you don't want to do. This brain area gets bigger.
Oh,
most people don't know that.
I love that. We're going to dig into this today. When you don't want to do something and then you actually do it, how that can impact your life and how that can really condition you to be able, to eventually become the person that just intrinsically does that hard thing.
Yeah.
We always say a burn. You're going to say the same thing, aren't you? Go ahead. You can finish my sentence.
Well,
I love that we finish each other's sentences.
That's my whole journey is like, I was not a confident person in my like late 20s, and I found burn because of Child Watch, and pushing myself outside of my comfort zone in camp has only helped me realize, because now that I'm realizing the science behind it, I did it so often because I go to camp consistently. I did that so often in camp that I was able to rewire my brain, and that then helped and translated outside of those four walls. And that's what we say all the time at Burn Boot Camp. And it's true. I am like a living proof of something that can actually happen to you.
Yeah, it 100%, and it will happen to you. It's inevitable if you show up and you're in an environment. We're going to talk about that word environment today. But before we do that, we got a little promo for you guys. Pod 10, shop.burnbootcamp.com. Collagen peptides, Burn Bootcamp Nutrition, are available for you right now. You can get 10% off. Do you guys want to show me the website, please? Collagen peptides are on shop.burnbootcamp.com, along with all of our other supplements. Okay, so we have a before, a during, and an after fitness-specific nutrition supplement lineup. All right, and what is collagen? Collagen really stems from the connective tissue and protein. And so we know the protein molecule, if you've been listening to the podcast, is the structure molecule. And what does structure mean? It means muscle tissue. It means hair, it means skin, it means nails. And that's really what collagen is. It's protein from the connective tissue. And especially if you're not getting a lot of animal protein, you need collagen in your life. You can go to shop.burnbootcamp.com. You can enter promo code POD, P-O-D, 10. And we're tracking Pod 10, by the way. We're starting to pick up sales on it. I love it. It's great. Pod 10, get your collagen, put a scoop of this in your protein shake, in your water, in your whatever. Okay, whatever. It's flavorless. It can go into anything. And the advantage is that as you age, your body is going to produce less and less and less and less collagen. So you need to supplement, especially as we age. Makes sense? Say yes.
Stick it in your coffee creamer. If you use a frother, I swear it makes my coffee even better. So a little tip for you.
A little protein coffee action. All right, everybody. So we're going to get into the pod today. The majority of our content is going to be really about 5 different strategies. And when you take these things, they could either, each one of them can live on their own, or you can take all 5 and you can kind of put them together and sort of devise a game plan for you. But what we're trying to do here is install like a safety net for you to be able to look at your life and say, all right, which one of these 5 strategies can I deploy so that I can start going the opposite way? I can stop dragging myself through the mud. I can actually experience change, because what we both know, Trisha, we've read Carol Dweck's Mindset. We've read Emotional Intelligence 2.0, a lot of the books that we talk about on the podcast. What we do know is that any time there's stagnation in your life, it is not that you are inevitably supposed to arrive at this place where no progress was supposed to be made. It just means that you as an individual have to take accountability.
Yes.
And we have to talk about what actions aren't you willing to change in order to get to where you want to go. And there's some beauty in that personal responsibility because you can actually do something about it. You actually control it. And yeah, there's some environmental circumstances, but all in all, if we are experiencing slowed progress, it is up to us how we accelerate out of that. It is up to us what decisions we make that build momentum that get us out of that. One thing we know from the psychology books is that progress equals happiness. So if we can just make some progress, a little bit, some momentum, if we can just get some positive some positive momentum, even if it's just a little bit going in one direction, we can let that snowball. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Is we're going to help you install some tools for you to be able to realize kind of where you're at. Sometimes we're so unself-aware. I know I've been there many times where I'm like, I don't even know that I'm in this place in which I'm kind of dragging my feet a little bit, and it takes like the results in my life to actually catch up and show me, oh, this result. For an example, I don't know, let me use like franchise development for the business or something like that. Like it goes really, really well, and success might cover up any flaws in when we're trying to grow the company. And then when those flaws get exposed, only happens when the results show up on a piece of paper. And it's like, oh no, why didn't we experience better results? Oh, we must have to go back now and look at all the activity that led up to us measuring this result. Kind of like if you were to be somebody who's wanting to lose body fat, and you might get on the scale and you might be surprised or irritated or frustrated, one of those emotions when you step on the scale or you measure your body fat and you're like, I don't know why this is, why this outcome is this way, because it doesn't line up with all the things that I was doing. And then you really go back and you analyze all the leading activity that got to when you stepped on that scale or measured that body fat, and you realize that what that result actually did was just shine a flashlight on all of the activity that we thought was good for us, but might not have been good for us. And this is a very hard thing to balance, is to be so aware in the moment that you're able to stop strategies that don't work before they lead to a result that you don't want. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I think, well, what my brain goes to is like, there has to be a level of vulnerability first, right? Like, because if you don't have a level of vulnerability to really understand and to call yourself out, that is what like, it's like, I messed up. I did not do that. And instead of having an excuse for everything, I think if you're one of those people and you're listening and you do lean on excuses, there was a time in my life, I remember Devan called me out. He's like, and as a friend and as like a mentor for me, he's like, you've got to actually own up. Like, that's an excuse. That's an excuse. So if you don't first have like the mindset of having, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's really uncomfortable, but after you do it over and over again, then you can have a better path to success, or at least understanding but going back to what you said, where you need to make up for the gaps to get your goals.
Exactly. Beautifully said. Waiting for motivation instead of building momentum is our first topic. So often what you're describing is, it could be the scenario in which somebody is waiting around to feel like it. Really, that's what motivation is. Like, motivation is just this temporary feeling that when you are inspired, you can capture that in a moment, but we have to realize that inspiration, it comes and it goes. In Stop Starting Over, the first book I wrote, I released it in August of 2017. I show this diagram, and it's a diagram of motivation. And basically what it does, it just gives this contextual representation of motivation, what it looks like to be motivated and demotivated through time. And what it shows is that you're going to be motivated today, but if you're progressing over time, you're going to be demotivated at some time in the future, but you're actually going to be more well off than you were at a motivated time in the past. But the idea is that what we want to do is we want to shorten that demotivation, right? We want to shorten that demotivation. We're going to experience it. We can't eliminate it. Oftentimes I'll get members come up to me and they'll just say, yes, I'm in a period of my life where I'm really demotivated. And I'll be like, good, great. And they look at me like I'm absolutely crazy because nobody's ever told them good when they come up to somebody looking for like positive affirmation. What they really want me to say is like, oh, that's so terrible.
Yeah.
Poor you.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm like, good. Adversity. Let's go.
Yeah.
You felt pretty good in your first 287 camps, haven't you? Is the first time you felt like demotivated? Great. This is a practice now that you've had the self-awareness to realize how you're becoming demotivated with your workout. Now what we need to do is find ways to shorten the period of demotivation, which is done by eliminating the carryover of negative emotion. That's how we get demotivation to go from like, oh, poor, because all motivation is whether I feel like doing something or not. And so your story equals your state. So if I tell myself that, oh, I'm, feeling bad and it's a rainy day and I'm depressed and I feel like staying in bed, right? What's going to be the outcome?
You're going to be sad. Depressed.
You'd be sad and depressed. If I wake up to today's a great day, no matter what it's like outside, you're going to tend to experience that. So what we want to do is we want to train our brain. We want to condition our body and our mind to shorten the periods of demotivation by recognizing negative emotion and by mitigating that. Okay. So that's what we're going to talk about for a moment here. How do you mitigate negative emotion? There's one word, we've already said it, momentum. We talk about the 5 small wins at Burn Boot Camp. So if you're waiting for motivation instead of building momentum, you might be waiting a long time. Motivation comes and goes, and motivation owes nothing to you. You might get motivated by watching a documentary. You might get motivated by seeing somebody on Instagram do, something incredible, like some incredible physical feat. You might be motivated by something going really bad in your life. You might be so motivated because you just are about to get kicked out of your apartment and you got an eviction notice and that fires you up to the point where you're angry. And anger becomes this motivation if it's transmuted the right way. But waiting around for those life circumstances means that you wake up and you never own the day. That's what it means. It means that you're waking up waiting for something to happen unto you when you need to go out and you need to impose yourself on the world and manipulate the world around you rather than manipulating yourself around the world. It is you, yourself, and I, and your point of view on the world is all that matters. If you allow other points of view to infiltrate, then who are you really?
Yeah,
you're just a montage of everyone else's viewpoints rather than your own.
It's like self-respect in action. I was reading through a couple of things just preparing for this pod because this is one of my favorite topics is how do I continue to get better in my own way and to focus on myself? And it truly is. In order to keep the momentum up, whenever I can think about periods of time when my momentum has been at a high, it's because I've been focusing on myself, which might sound like selfish, but you flip that on its head and it's self-respect because if I'm showing up as my best self, guess what? I'm going to be the best mom, the best wife, the best friend. I'm going to be better at a team with my team because I'm doing things for myself to build myself up.
And a small caveat because you're going on that tangent, and I love the tangent. It's a great tangent. When you talk about momentum and getting small wins and being able to actually recognize when you're going the opposite way, this is a skill set. Okay, the skill set is the self-awareness, and the key word is the self. And you said it. You said self-respect, self-respect, self-esteem. Right? These things we look for out there. Like if you don't have a game plan and you just go out into the world, then you expect the world to respect you, which then becomes your form of self-respect. How other people it's completely backwards. Self-esteem, the confidence of yourself, it can only come from you.
Yeah,
it can't come from anyone else. It's self-esteem. So we go out here and we look for all these different areas to garner feedback about ourselves to reinforce our character and our standards. Well, if you do that, then you're going to become the definition of what other people want you to be rather than the definition of yourself. So build momentum starts with like being real honest about who you are and who you want to be if you want to build some momentum. And then there's 5 very simple ways we can start building some momentum on a daily basis. Eat your calories. Have a small calorie deficit. Start to reduce the amount of alcohol that you take every day. Notice I'm not saying quit. I'm just saying start like control. It's controls on your life, okay? That's what self-respect, self-control. It's self-imposing controls on yourself when it comes to calories, alcohol, sugar, hydrating yourself the right way. Get enough water, get enough protein, the structure molecule, and because we know how important that is to building muscle and the pathology of muscle and how it increases your resting metabolic rate, increases the amount of calories that you're burning at rest, etc. So there's kind of nuts and bolts, X's and O's, blocking and tackling. If you need momentum, you can even go way smaller than that, my friends. Do you want to know something that I did one year to build momentum? I was trying to get to the point where, let me give you a little background. So I was doing everything that I could when I played with the San Francisco Giants to get to the next level. I was clearly not the best athlete on the field. I needed to do more. I needed more activity. I needed more practice than somebody else who was 6'6", had big old hands and could throw the ball 100 miles an hour. I'm 6'1", 6'2", 185 to 200 pounds in my career, and I needed to really work hard. And so I started incorporating in the off season in my second year this idea of shadow rehearsing. So I would just, instead of like actually going out there and practicing physically, I would spend about an hour a day just rehearsing, mental rehearsal of, we call it shadow pitching. I would just shadow pitch for like 30 minutes, sometimes 45 minutes in my head. And I would close my eyes and go through every single scenario. And I would play out I would slow real life down. Mm-hmm. So I'd imagine myself on a mound in front of 5,000 people with the game on the line. First pitch, who's the batter I have? What's their stats? What do they look like? What is the environment around me? How am I showing up? What's the first pitch? I'll go through my mechanics and I'll actually go through a whole inning, and it takes 45 minutes to go through an entire inning. This was the work that nobody else was willing to do. This was the work that I knew just by doing it alone was going to give me a leg up, and that gave me confidence, which gave me a little bit of momentum. Mm-hmm. And so what is your daily practice, your daily habit that is going to get you a little bit more momentum, get you going in the right direction that you haven't incorporated yet? And then I had the best year of my life the next year because I had this mental rehearsal over and over and over and over. Sometimes, and we'll talk, this is the last point on this one, sometimes we confuse motivation, which is like this fleeting thing that comes and goes. It comes to us sometimes. We manifest it sometimes, but we confuse that with inspiration. Mm-hmm. You've got 3 little boys at home. Mm-hmm. For you, it's not the why, it's the who.
Yeah.
I was having a focus meeting a couple months ago with a gal that won a contest. She's a trainer out west. So we had a focus meeting and we maybe meet for 30 minutes. And what I realized during this focus meeting is that what we all kind of are conditioned to believe, that the why we do something is most important. I realized during this focus meeting, as she's explaining what her inspiration comes from, where it lives, why it's there, why the fire burns so bright, she's not explaining anything about why. She's explaining about who. She's telling me about how this impacts her husband and her children and her members and her team and her franchise partner and all the people around her that believed in her. And her whole mindset was like, I can't let the people down who actually believed in me. It's not about proving people wrong. It's about proving the people who believed in me right. In that moment, I'm like, oh, that's the who, not the why. And you talk about this on the pod all the time, like how your 3 boys are your inspiration. And who you do something for is far more powerful than why you're actually doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I want to live by example. I try and teach my kids lessons all the time, but if I'm just speaking to them, I'm not actually doing the things and doing the hard work, then like, what does that actually mean? They're going to be able to see through that one day, and I want them to be proud of me. That's what matters the most to me, and that's why then this whole idea of confidence and self-esteem, in order for me, and like, I love my job. How do I continue to get better at my job? I gotta learn, I gotta educate, I gotta never stop learning, but that's for me to then show up as my best self. So then I'm actually being the role model that I want to be for them, because that's my who. It's like a weird path if you think about it, because you're starting with yourself,
right?
But ultimately it's for someone else.
Yeah, they're so intertwined. They're so intersected. But what I've noticed, and I've done thousands of focus meetings now, what I've noticed is that when people talk about their why, it's very transactional. It's, well, my vision of this and the outcome is this, and here's my why, and if I don't, here's what's going to happen. If I do here, like you can tap into some emotion, but if I want to cut through all of that, and I don't have 2 hours to peel back all the layers of psychology that you have, I go right to who. Who would you let down in your life if you didn't do this?
Mm-hmm.
Tears,
mm-hmm.
right? Because the pain of letting somebody down in our life that we love the most is far more painful than actually letting ourselves down.
Mm-hmm.
We refuse to do to allow something to happen to other people, like especially those we love, like our children. If you have children, I already know what your button is.
Mm-hmm.
Like outside of like an outlier, like psychopath scenario, like I know what your button is. Immediately when you tell me, so my first question is, who do you eat dinner with at night? That's always my first question, because I don't assume someone has children. I don't assume they have a husband or a wife, whatever. I don't assume that they live alone or single. Like, who do you eat dinner with?
Mm-hmm.
It's a good question.
It is a good question,
because those are the people usually that we need to make proud.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're eating dinner alone, that's okay. Just hit me up, FaceTime me. We'll have some dinner together. It's going to be fun. It's going to be great. All right. You're not alone. You're a leader. That's what you are. You're a leader. All right. Trish, any other questions, thoughts, comments on this first conversation around motivation being this fleeting idea that isn't necessarily a goal, inspiration being the goal, and little momentum that comes when you're inspired in the right way? Any other dynamics we need to uncover on this one before we move on to number 2?
The only thing I think is like the middle. I again, as I was like kind of doing some research, what are your thoughts on like the middle between these two things? Because that can sometimes, you've said it earlier, it can be long and it can be short, but the middle is what we don't all, it's like we see the highlight reel. We see the end result. We see when someone gets the job or gets the PR, but we don't see the messy middle. And so I'm just curious on your thoughts on that.
I think the messy middle is all about understanding momentum. First of all, understanding how it works and how it compounds. It has a compounding effect, like investing into the stock market has a compounding effect. That if I invest $20 today, that grows 10%, and then I'll have, more to grow next year, that'll grow 10%, and more to grow next year. We can really compound momentum and get to the point where the momentum builds into personality,
Mm-hmm.
into identity. And that takes a long time.
Patience.
It takes patience. The idea is to fall in love with failure as you're going along the path,
Mm-hmm.
is to chase failure and to look at it as something that becomes a fortifying obstacle for you, the rock that sharpens your knife or sharpens your sword. The failure is chipping away at all the parts of you that don't work. And I think Michelangelo said this the best when he was, I think he was doing like a statue. One of his famous, King David, I think it was. And he said, I don't need to carve this stone. I just need to remove everything that's not King David. And so what he was saying is that the art is already in there. The form of your future self is already inside of you. And what we need to do is continue to fail and chip away and not try to be perfect at the pieces we're chipping away. And to get down to that final form, it takes a long time. And then you'll get down to where it almost looks right, but it's not quite right. And then you got to change your strategy and your philosophies, and you got to start to polish rather than chip away. So the middle is messy, but the momentum is what keeps you committed ultimately. We're going to talk about commitment. Stick around, everyone, because we're going to talk about this idea of an irreversible commitment. It's like a big deal here. It's an irreversible commitment. We're going to talk about that last. Section number 2 here is all about standards. All right, you might have heard this before, but if you don't have standards that rise and only your goals rise, then you just have an idea and you don't have a process to follow it up. So your standards haven't risen. The goal, the idea has risen, but the actual standard or the process hasn't risen. Morgan says this all the time, that if you show me a goal, that's great, but then show me your processes to get to the goal, and I'll show you the likelihood of you actually getting there. So if we're talking about how to gain, how to get out of this mud that we're stuck in, you could very well be in a position, and let me know if anything comes to mind for you, Trisha, where in your mind, the idea, the goal, it's been there. You maybe even have it on paper. It might even be permanent, but you haven't done the work, the activity, you haven't gotten the traction. The rubber has not met the road. Somebody that says, I'm going to lose 100 pounds this year. 2 months into it, they're still needing to lose that 100 pounds. They're still convicted about it. They're still trying, but the results aren't actually coming. Does this strike a chord in your life? Anything that comes to mind? I have so many examples for me that come to mind when it's like, hey, here's an idea, all right, but then you forgot that you actually can't just have ideas and you actually need some momentum and progress behind it.
I mean, I think a lot about going back to just, I always kind of relate it back to work and my goals and my job and how I do like to create little milestones for myself, because to me, that's the progress that I need to keep going. It's the confidence that it gives to me. But I also know that if I've set a goal, to your point, and I'm like, dang, why? Well, if I don't hit it, if I'm not even close, I wake up a year later and I'm not where I need to be. I didn't do the work. And I think you just have to be able to, I think about people in my life too, who are talking to me about their goals and they think that they can just magically wake up and it's going to happen. I'm like, but did you do any of the work? You might think that you deserve this. You do, for sure. But you also have to do the work to get there. And I think that that's maybe going back to being vulnerable and having the self-awareness to understand you can't just, I want it, I got it. Like that isn't real life. You gotta put in the work.
Right. Yeah. Just this, and it's competitive out here, right? It's competitive, right? It's competitive if you're in a landscape in which your goals are like a business context or like it's an actually competitive environment, but also competing for your attention. When you have so many priorities in your life, be healthy, be a great mom, be a great leader, be a servant to God, be a great sister, husband, friend, business owner, whatever. You have all these different, you're pulled so many different directions. It's very, very easy to say, hey, here's where I'm going, but then not back that up or reinforce that. It reminds me of a book that I'm reading. I'm reading a book right now. It's a business book. It's called Science of Scale. And it has this concept in it that I'm going to relate back to momentum with like health and fitness, because I think a lot of the stuff, a lot of great principles that have really helped me scale across different, parts of that lifestyle pie, whether it be work or passion or money or career or health or fitness or emotional intelligence or my relationships, whatever it is. There's this concept called raise the floor. This is basically saying that, and you've heard me say this before, you will get what you tolerate. That if you want to really reach something incredible, to like set a goal and hit the goal, what raising the floor does, or raising your standards, what that does is that eliminates options for you, right? Like, okay, let me give you an example. If I have this impossible goal, right? And I set the goal really high. I think a lot of us set our goals far, far too low. And then we hit them. And that's a problem. Because we're underachieving. But if we set our goals real high and you shot for the stars and you fell in the clouds because you set some huge goal, like I'm going to lose 100 pounds in a year, let's just say, that's a big goal.
Yeah.
I mean, statistically improbable. All right. Well, once you've set that goal, what actually happens as a byproduct of setting such a big goal is you've actually raised the strategy floor in what you can actually do in order to reach the goal.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't, it just eliminates all your options and it makes the strategy much more clear. It eliminates complexity. Let me give you an example. You know that if you're going to lose 100 pounds in 12 months, that you have to have a calorie deficit every single day.
Yeah.
It's not going to work any other way.
Mm-hmm.
No other way will you lose 100 pounds in a year without a 500 calorie, it's math, without a 500 calorie deficit or more every single day, roughly speaking. Right? Check my math. That automatically eliminates all the decisions that you would have to make around, should I eat out? Can I eat dessert? What can I eat when I go out to dessert? Or go out, or what dessert can I have when I go out to eat? All that stuff becomes irrelevant because the only goal is it becomes calorie deficit. Let's just say in this simple example. All right. All the strategy you can basically think of is rendered useless if that one strategy isn't hit. So that's what setting your goals in this fashion does. And when we set a goal and then we raise our standard, that's the philosophy. You set the impossible goal, which sets the floor, and then the floor eliminates anything underneath the floor that you can't do, which actually makes it more simple because you don't have so many options, which is why people don't necessarily want to do that, because psychologically, now we have to look at ourselves in the mirror and we have to say, I've isolated the strategies to reach this crazy goal that I set down to one or two things only. And those one or two things are extremely scary for me to look at and to imagine myself as an individual achieving. Man, if I have to lose 100 pounds in 12 months, it means I can't drink anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I mean, if you're going to set that type of goal and you're that serious about it, alcohol's out of the cards for you.
Mm-hmm.
Sugar's out of the cards for you.
You're going to be uncomfortable.
You're going to be uncomfortable. But you're going to be in alignment because now you're setting your goals in alignment with your standard. When we become unhappy or discontent is when we don't set a goal and our standards are aligned, or we do set a goal and our standards aren't aligned. Alignment, congruency is progress and happiness. Misalignment will create a mismanagement and no congruency.
And that clip that from Dr. Andrew Huberman was talking about that, the more that you do those, you set those goals, you put yourself in uncomfortable situations for yourself, the science says it almost gets easier for you to continue to do that because of how much you're putting yourself in those uncomfortable positions.
Yeah, I don't know the science behind it, which is why I love the Huberman podcast, because he does really dive into he works in a lab full time, right? Like we work at HQ Burn Boot Camp full time. So I'd like to do the research, but I don't know the science of it super well. But practically, in my own life, it's like, man, when I condition myself to do hard things and then I see the results from me being disciplined and doing hard things, discipline, yes, is difficult, but I've now realized so many times that getting up and going to the gym early in the morning is difficult, but so is sleeping in and having the guilt from sleeping in. That's also difficult. So what type of difficult do I want? The empowering version or the disempowering version?
It doesn't get easier. You just get stronger, Devan.
Oh, all right. Number 3. Anything else on number 2?
No.
All right. Number 3. There's this idea of change that could keep you stuck in the mud. You might be addicted to the idea of change. This is pretty similar, but different than number 2, because we're talking about raise your floor, number 2, and eliminating complexity, making it more simple. isolating down one hard path that is undeniably the path you should be taking. All right. That's a great strategy to have, is to align the goals and the standards. Now we're talking about setting the goal in the first place. The idea, we get addicted to this idea. We don't even think about the process. We don't even get to where like there's a separation between goal and standards. It's like this idea of change and the process. We don't even get to the process. We just keep having the idea, and the idea itself is the process. Let me give you an example. How many of you could be this person, or you know somebody else who is either like a seminar hopper, or they could be a gym hopper. They could be a book hopper. It's those folks that I like to call dabblers. They just kind of like, they never really fully commit to a process. They're in love with the idea of being somebody who goes to the gym. They're in love with the idea of being somebody who owns a business. They're in love with the idea of being somebody who is an influencer and has a large base of knowledge. They're in love with the idea. It's talking versus action. It's going to that seminar over and over and over and over. I'm like, hey, Trish, this isn't you, but like, hey, Trish, it's been 5 years. You've now told me you've gone to 15 seminars in 5 years. How has your life gotten better? And then you can't articulate to me how your life has gotten better because you're addicted to this idea. And it's like spinning in circles, like a dog chasing its tail, just spinning in circles with this ideology of who you want to become without actually even realizing that the process is an afterthought for you.
Is it because the process is the hard part? And so the idea is like this shiny thing that looks fun and exciting. And yeah, I'm going to be that. But then you go and start to work your way to making the idea come to life. And you're like, dang, this is hard.
This is, people ask me all the time about entrepreneurship, obviously. And so this is the reality of entrepreneurship, is if you're going to build something that is great, of substance for other people in this great country of America, that takes 5 to 8 years of you actually nobody caring about what you have to say, like nobody caring at all. And you just taking action after action after action after action, in which the vast majority of that action fails. You don't make any progress at all. And then you got to wake up the next day and you got to do it over again. And you got to be happy doing it, like to the point in which you can magnetically attract other people that you want to bring into your world of suffering to enjoy this, this world of suffering with you. That is the reality of being an entrepreneur. So, friends, don't start something unless you're down for that journey. Like, you really got to be down for that journey. It's actually none of it is like rainbows. It's like you might see a rainbow every 8 years if you're lucky.
I think it's interesting that you say that, because I have a lot of ideas, and I'm pretty good at now, because I've done it so much, of getting myself uncomfortable. But the hard part is all of the other people telling me stories, and then their stories getting in my head. And I don't know if you've read this book, is The Courage to be Disliked.
I have not. Who writes that book? Do you know?
I just bought it, and so I literally
Fine.
have it.
DJ is on it. Keep going.
Kishman, I don't know. Anyways, I am now, I've identified in myself that this is a part that holds me back, is I am just so concerned, and that those stories overtake the stories that I have in my own head. And so I think that that's where now I'm on this journey of, it's, I don't want to be disrespectful to people. That's where I think I get caught up. But I also need to make sure that I'm not letting other people hold me back from my ideas coming to life, because I'm worried what they're going to think, when really at the end of the day, we all have so much going on that shouldn't even matter. So that's where I bought this book, and I'm committed to figuring out how I can get over that hump.
Yeah, that is such a great book title, The Courage to be Disliked. And it's so true. And doesn't that take out a lot of people? Doesn't it?
Yeah.
It takes out a lot of people that need to be loved by everyone. It takes out a lot of people, because it's, it's like, your actions have to correlate with your words, and not everybody's going to agree with your words and your actions, and therefore not everybody's going to be happy. So if you're trying to make everybody happy, you actually don't have an identity. You're just whatever other people want you to be, and you're their version of yourself. And man, it's a tough existence, because then you have to like almost succumb to what everyone else wants you to be, and that has nothing to do with you, and you're ultimately misaligned. But you're misaligned in a way that's pleasing other people. And so now you're stuck in a sense of like, I'm in misalignment, but people like this version of me. Ooh, that's a tough place to be in. Do you feel like you go in and out of that ever? I know I feel like I go in and out of that. Are you real time working through this? Is this something that you've noticed about yourself? Is this a roller coaster? Is this how's this taking shape?
It's real time for me, because like I said, I think one of the most frustrating parts about me trying to reach some of my goals is like, I'm willing to do the hard work. I really actually like the hard work. I like trying to learn and get better. But where I struggle is what other people think of me, and what, how I'm going to impact them, when really, going back to what I said at the beginning, it's self-esteem, it's self-respect. If I can respect myself, then at the end of the day, that's all that matters, because I'm making the best decision that I need to make.
Yeah, I often say that people will say a lot of things about you, and what they say has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, so true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I tell this to my kids all the time. We get 3 kids, oldest daughter, 9 years old, Max, who's going to be 8 here soon, and Ryan, my youngest. And they argue, and they'll tattle like kids do, and they'll come up to me, and, Max and Ryan will be going at it, and one of them will come up to me and be like, "Dad, Max told me that I was stupid, Dad." Well, that's obviously not a good word to use, Max. We'll deal with that later. But I tell Ryan, I'll say, "Hey, Rye, do you think you're stupid?" And he'll say, No, smart, Dad. I say, "Great. Well, why does what Max says have anything to do with you?" Yeah. And instantly, boom, smiles on his face. Dad knows I'm smart, and I'm smart, so I'm not stupid, right? And he'll go right back to Max, and they'll start having a discussion about it. Yeah. I'm trying to get them to have discussions rather than, arguments.
Yeah.
So this is one discussion they often have, is they try to label each other, and I'm helping. So this is a human psychological phenomenon, to let other people tell you who you are and try to like please them. And, we do want that. Like, I don't like the narrative of like, don't try to please anybody. That's not a good life either, right? You don't want to try to please everybody. You don't want to try to please nobody. You want to start with yourself and the people that you love in your life. Please them first, and really outside of that force field, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. I'm working on it.
Okay. Let's hit environment real quick, and then we're gonna go on to what my favorite one is, number 5, this irreversible move. All right. But environment is a quick topic that I want to discuss with everybody. So if you are stuck and you feel like you're not progressing, one thing that you can do, and the reason I brought this tactic into when I sat down and thought about what are the 5 strategies that I've used to get myself out of periods of time when I've been stuck. Sometimes you can't just we don't all have that willpower just to go inward, or we don't have that like prerequisite feeling to know what it's like to go inward and to actually like go inward. Like, what does that even mean? Am I doing it right? Right? Sometimes we need to manipulate the environment around us in order to like maybe kickstart some of that momentum. At least I feel that way. If you're somebody who's trying to lose 100 pounds in 12 months, here's a simple example. One piece to the environment that you can't have is you can't have donuts in your house every day. Yeah. Right? If you're somebody who is trying to break the habit of eating out, you can't take that same path by that same road that you've taken for the last 10 years. You've stopped at that Chick-fil-A every day for the last 10 years. You're going to have an automatic response to a default mode network that wants to pull you to this. So you got to change your environment, right? Change your environment so you stop getting those triggers and those cues, and then start to replace the triggers and the cues with something else in your environment that's strategically placed there by you, that's in alignment with where you want to be, those big goals you say you have. So 100 pounds in a year means that I can't have that, lineup of sweets in my cupboard that I've always had. I've now got to change that habit to a lineup of fruit. But here's where I give myself permission. I can go and I can have as much of that fruit as I want. The same way I went into that cupboard and ate, I had like 37 wrappers in my trash can after, the next day when I woke up and I felt bad about myself and I felt bloated and lethargic and like I'd gained weight. Do that same thing. Binge on all the fruit you want. I guarantee you don't wake up feeling that way. Right? So the environment, you have to design the environment around you, upgrade your surroundings. We talk about boundaries, my B word, on Burn On Demand on the nutrition education course. If you guys haven't heard about that, you can go to Burn On Demand. It's a 30-day free trial. Unless you're already a member, go right into Burn On Demand by downloading the Burn Bootcamp app. And I've got 10 modules right there. I walk you through nutrition. We create a plan together. One thing I talk about is boundaries. We set a handful of boundaries in that course. But just like you have boundaries around your room, just like you have boundaries around your time, just around your sleeping, you have to have boundaries in your life. Okay, you have to have boundaries around other people. You have to have boundaries around your nutrition, boundaries around your environment. So where are you not drawing boundaries? And where are you allowing undisciplined behavior to creep into your life? Anything come to your mind?
Well, I was just going to use the word discipline. I think discipline's the hardest part. Is you have to have the discipline to hold to your boundaries. We actually were just talking about this in my household the other day because I didn't want to go work out at 5:30 in the morning on Monday. Just did not want to do it. And we're getting home and we do highs and lows at dinner and my kids. And my high was that I went and worked out when I didn't want to. And my husband was like, she's created discipline for herself. She knows that that's what she wants to go do, but you won't do that unless you kind of create those habits of winning, I guess, at the boundaries and creating the discipline habits. So I guess bringing that all to say is it doesn't just happen overnight. You kind of have to, and going back to the small wins, and that's why small wins, if I had to guess, came to be, is because you have to have the small wins in order to give yourself the confidence that you can do that. It's not going to happen overnight.
And you're bringing, what I love about that story is you're bringing in like accountability stacking into this. You know that you have to sit down with the people you love the most in your life and talk about wins and losses today, highs and lows, right?
Yeah.
And so like even maybe it's conscious, maybe it's not, but you're giving yourself like this accountability at the end of the day. So now you're more likely to be like, you know what? Even if I don't want to and I'm in my own feelings and I don't want to do this, I'm going to go to the people I love, my who in my life, and I'm going to tell them this story. And I have a story to tell. Oftentimes, people like, listen, I'll just be vulnerable. Like I love being in the gym with you guys. By far, my number one thing to do in my career is to travel to our locations, to train on the mic, be in camp, working out hard with everybody, high-fiving, hearing your stories. Like, by far, the coolest part of my life. Even that being said, when I have to get up and go out and go Monday, Tuesday, when there's periods of time where it's like, then a Saturday, and then Fire Club, and then this one, and then you got a dinner, and then you got FAC, then you got to come in, Burn University, got to give a speech, then you got to come back, and now it's Wednesday, right? And over, like, wow, it just becomes this, it becomes like, in a sense, overwhelming. And I could very easily like become disinterested in that. But to kind of what I was saying with like you forecasting that accountability in the evening, I want that story. I want that story that I can go tell people in my life that I love the most. I can go tell them the story of how I went out and did all of these really hard things. I enjoy them, right? But there's a difficulty in traveling from city to city to city and showing up and creating those experiences in that moment when people meet me that they're accustomed to hearing other people have, and I got to show up, right? And if I don't like suck it up in a sense and swallow my exhaustion and swallow whatever, I'm thinking about, I wanted to go do a relax or whatever voice in my head that's saying, take it easy. Why you still out here doing all this stuff? Like, just slow down a little bit. I got to battle all of that. But I know I get to go tell my children when we're eating dinner at night, I get to tell them what dad did this week. Man, kids, I went to 5 cities. I got to meet 1,000 members. I then came back home and I talked to 40 franchise partners and their team members about this incredible journey that we're on. And, then remember I came home Sunday night, we played baseball for like 2, that was like the highlight of, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm taking what would be difficult and what is difficult, and I'm doing it anyway, because now I have a story to tell to the people I love in my life the most. And that's what you're doing on a day-to-day basis when you don't feel like working out, but you do it anyway. You do it anyway because you know people in your life that you love the most are going to be proud of you because you did it.
And the negative stories that, you could just, to your point, like you could just cancel and be like, no, I'm too tired, I want to relax. Or I could have just been like, no, I want to go to sleep. But you have to combat the negative, selfish, I guess, in a negative way that's telling you these stories and say, no, I got to spin this and it has to be positive. And that's going to be okay.
That's all part of designing your environment, everybody. That's what we're talking about. Design your environment. Last thing I'll talk about here is boundaries for me. I just stopped drinking alcohol. I'm not saying that everybody should stop drinking alcohol or I'm not trying to demonize it or whatever. Like, this is just my own personal story that I had to stop. I had to stop. It was creating an environment for me that was counter everything that I want in my life. And it wasn't that it was creating like these regrettable moments, like I was waking up the next day and like doing stupid stuff and hating my life for it or being publicly embarrassed. I wasn't to that level, but I can see that if I keep going at the compounded rate that I am, that I'm going to end up in a place in which has always been the opposite of where I would want to end up, which is where my father ended up, losing his life over substance abuse and in his 50s. And so like, I can't have that. And I've got the same addictive personality that he did. I've just channeled that in a way that is positive, and he was channeling it in a way which was negative. But we're the same human, and I cannot keep allowing myself to consciously build up momentum with this negative behavior, because momentum goes in both ways, doesn't it? It's either it could be positive and can kind of like propel you to the next level in your life, or it can just straight up take you all the way down. And alcohol and drug abuse took my father all the way down. And as his life progressed, it went faster and faster and faster and faster. It didn't get better. It got worse. And so here I am having a dinner date on a Monday night with friends in Morgan, and then a Tuesday night work date, and then a Wednesday afternoon, and I got a buddy in from out of town who's having a beer or whatever. I just got to the point where it was like 3 or 4 times a week, casually, but I wasn't controlling it.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt bad about not control. I didn't even want it, and I was doing it anyway. And all that, I would wake up the next day and I would just regret not being able to have control in my life. And it just made my confidence weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. And I wasn't addicted. I could quit anytime. I quit for 90 days every year for the prior 4 or 5 years, 3, 4 years maybe missed a year in there somewhere. But it just wasn't making me congruent. It was misaligning my life, not aligning my life. And all the things that I say that I want I was not getting closer to them with that type of alcohol schedule. And so with my addictive personality, I had to remove the shame from my life by making that one decision to stop, because that was the source of the shame that was being created, was that one thing. And not everybody's like that. And I'm not projecting by any means onto you, but if you are feeling that way, alcohol can be the culprit a lot of times of shame and guilt and broken promises to yourself. So whatever your environment is telling you, think about this right now. Whatever your environment is saying, this is not in alignment with us. This habit, this food, this ritual, this commute to work, this these eating patterns, this preparation for my nutrition. Something has to change. What is that for you? Everybody has one. We'll move on to the last piece today, number 5. This is my favorite one. Mm-hmm. If you are feeling stuck, if you feel like life isn't changing fast, it's likely that you have not made an irreversible decision. You haven't made the irreversible move. You're not committing to anything. You're just dabbling. You're not committed to mastery. You want to like touch a lot of stuff. You want to kind of dabble here and there, and you know, you don't want to be an aficionado. You want to be like a connoisseur, right? You don't want to go deep and be an expert. You kind of want to just have a little bit of knowledge about a lot of things or something like that, but you haven't made this irreversible decision. We call it burn the boats. You hadn't burned the boats yet. Do you know what burn the boats means?
I love it. I mean, I know what it means. It means you have no way out. You're not going back to the other island. You're stuck.
It does mean you have no way out. Oh, I love that you know what this means. Do you think should I explain what this means real quick or no?
Sure.
Okay. So burn the boats. Burn the boats, actually, the origin of this comes from war. Okay, wartime. So Hernan Cortés. Yes, Cortés was a famous. He was this is like the most famous version of this story. There might be other ones you can see out there, but he was a conquistador. You remember what conquistadors are?
I like that word.
Okay, so he was leading the Spanish conquest, and they arrived in Veracruz in 1519 to begin a campaign against the Aztec Empire. Okay, he ordered the men to destroy all ships by burning the boats. He stood up on one of the boats. He gave a speech. He said, "Men, we're at the island. There's the Aztecs. I want you right now not to go attack. I want you to turn around and set fire to your own boats." That message was very, very simple and also brutal. Mm-hmm. We have one outcome. We are going to take this island and defeat the Aztecs, or we're going to die.
Yeah.
There is no lifeline. There is no making a decision to turning around and going home. The boats are burned. What does this mean? This means that you need to burn more boats in your life. You need to stop giving yourself an out to turn around and go back. Stop giving yourself that exit to say, "I told you that wouldn't work," when you just try something a little bit. See, they could have gone up to the Aztecs and, maybe fought a little bit, and a couple of men maybe would have got executed or whatever, and they could have just turned around, got back on the boats and gone and said, "Oh yeah, see, we tried to take the Aztecs, but they were too powerful and it didn't work." But you know what happened? Cortés and the Spanish conquistadors destroyed their ships. They had no backup, no retreat, no backup plan. They win or they die, and guess what they did? It became legendary because they burned the boats and they took the island. Okay? The ships all burned. The ships all sank. No way to go in the opposite direction. This is what I want you to do in your life. What boats do you need to burn? Okay, what are you still holding on to that gives you that lifeline to go backward? It's a good question.
That's a great question.
What do you need to cut loose? What do you need to cut loose in your life? I'll tell you what a lot of people don't like to talk about that they need to cut loose. You have one or two friends in your life that aren't empowering you. Mm-hmm. And they've been there for a very, very long time. And not only are they not empowering you, you're actually becoming like they are. You're hanging around them so much, you're unwilling to cut them off. They're negative, they're pessimistic. It's always about what we can't do rather than what we can do. There's a fixed mindset that says why all the things are going, like justifies why nothing's going right and solidifies why everything's going wrong, versus the growth mindset where no matter what's going wrong, it's in favor of us and in the glory of God. Like, what type of people are you hanging around? And I guarantee you, everybody right now, myself included, has at least a person in their life. You got to get rid of them. You got to cut them off. That is just a hard truth. You got to burn that bridge. People say don't burn the bridge. There's some bridges that need to be burned. There's some boats that need to be burned. You don't want to use, why you want to use that bridge back into Crazy Town? I don't know. Burn the bridge to Crazy Town. You want to go back there. So what in your life do you need to burn? Anything come up for you?
Well, yeah. So I actually had to do this with a group of friends, and we were in a group chat, and I was complaining all the time to my husband, and he was like, "These aren't your people, and they're just bringing you down. They're making you feel bad about yourself." And it was nothing to do with them. It was all about my own personal triggers. And so I do want to clarify that. It was like I had to understand why I was feeling bad about myself. And one day I just wrote them a nice text and I said, "I love you guys all, but I have got to kind of move on." And I left the group chat. I knew in that moment, for someone who doesn't like to disappoint people, who doesn't like people to be mad at them, for people who I don't want to give someone a reason to talk bad about me, like all these things are going through my head. But I also knew that the pain of what I was doing to myself by participating in some of these conversations was not worth it. And so I left the group chat. And I will say there's some of those girls I still talk to, and they don't judge me for it. They understood that was something I needed to do for myself. And that's, I think, the moral of the story for me was that sometimes you have to stick up for yourself, and the people who care will show back up in a way where they know that that's the stuff that wasn't serving you. They can leave that aside. And so I can now have conversations with these people, and we don't have to bring back the stuff that was really dragging me down and not making me the best version of myself. Again, it was nothing to do with them. It was everything to do with me, but I had to figure out that line for myself. So it was a good moment. I still struggle with it. There's still people in my life that I'm not great at it, but it was probably the first time in my life that I've ever done something so significant and learned from it.
I love that because it's a dangerous kind of like territory on the other side of that decision. Because you don't know. But that's part of what we're saying is that the territory on the other side of the decision is dangerous. Therefore, you should face it, because danger, standing close to the fire, is how we fortify ourselves mentally. So what irreversible move have you not made? Think about that question. What move do you need to make in your life that you've just been holding on? This behavior, this attitude, this circumstance, this group of people, they're holding you back. You got to make an irreversible move in your life. Is that committing to something fully? It's like, how many of you wanted to start a business? How many of you, I got a good one. This would make me happy. If all the people out there, all my amazing members, I love you guys to death. All of you that told me you're going to buy a burn bought one. If you guys all just bought a burn that you told me you're going to, that would be a good irreversible move.
Do it.
You just got to do it. You got to jump in head first. Franchise.burnbootcamp.com, by the way. Enter your information. Franchise.burnbootcamp.com. Our team will talk to you.
Now is the time, folks.
Now's the time. Make that irreversible. Burn them boats. Quit corporate America. Burn the boats. Come on over. You know you want to. The risk that you are going to take in your life in the next 24 months will change your life if you take it. You have to. There's an opportunity to take a big risk in the next 12 to 24 months for you. And your life will change if you take it. Now, will you take it? I don't know. Most people say no.
I hope that they do.
Me too. Make an irreversible move, whether it's starting that business that you've always wanted to start. Make the irreversible move. Fellas, you've been dating the one for a long time. What are you doing?
Pop that question.
Make your irreversible move, bruh. Let's go. Stop being non-committal. Create accountability in your life. Do you know what the best ability is that any human being can have? An accountability. If you can have accountability for yourself and accountability to other people, man, that's the prerequisite to personal responsibility, which is the prerequisite to meaning and purpose, and that's what we all search for. So, Trisha, I think we should wrap up today, but we talked about 5 strategies to get going, to get out of the mud, to stop dragging yourself through it, to make change faster, and to stop the slowed progress. It's stop waiting around for motivation. Start building some momentum, my friends. And oftentimes what happens if you're in the mud is that you have set your goals very high, but then your actions in your day-to-day doesn't follow through. There's misalignment. Also, you could just be addicted to this idea of change. Is that you? Are you addicted to this idea of change, or is it the process that you really need to work on? What in your environment needs to be designed for the new you, not the old you? And what one irreversible move haven't you made yet? That's a quick little summary.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead.
I was going to say, it reminds me of something I said at Summit where I was talking about the brand, and it just brought me back. It's like, we need to stop chasing momentum and creating it. And it's like a aha moment for me as I said that about my work, but I need to do it for myself too.
She said it right there. All right. We're going to start creating momentum for you together in our lives, all of us individually. That's what community is all about. Each one of us individually goes after what we are designed to go after. We do it together with each other, help each other through the demotivation periods, and that's what community is all about. Thank you, gang, for being here, friends. If you haven't already, can you guys take a couple seconds right now to go subscribe to the podcast on YouTube? I would really appreciate if you would do that. So many of us are listening to this, but you're not subscribed, even if you're listening on Apple or Spotify or something. Trisha and I would really appreciate that. That's our metric. When we sit around and we talk about how we want to grow and how we want to show up, this is the audience sizes and the subscribers on YouTube are what we really look after. So please, that would be so helpful for us. And if you loved this episode, check out 509. 509 was an episode that we wanted to point you to. This was an Ask Devan Anything. This is the science behind mental toughness, which is an adjacent topic to all the things that we discussed today. So go check that out. The science behind mental toughness. Anything else from you, Trish?
Nope.
All
Hope
right.
everyone has a great day.
All right, everybody. Have a great day. 2 claps on 2. 1, 2.